Hi there and welcome to the Gamer's Companion in Music. In today's episode, we'll be talking about my favorite console series, Halo. I'm not going to talk about every game in this series. Oh, no. Today, we're going to take a look at one of the darker games in the franchise, Halo Reach. The music in this particular game is stunning. The orchestral score does not revive the musical themes of the Master Chief era of games per se directly, but it does call upon new themes and ideas to convey a darker, more visceral atmosphere. I thought it would be a great idea to trace these important themes throughout the score and take note of how their inclusion in certain moments contributes to the mood of the particular scene and overall feel of the game. In Halo Reach, you play as new Spartan recruit to a team of established Spartans called Noble Team, joined by members Carter, Kat, George, Emil, and June. The 6 characters fly to an outpost to check on a reported disturbance in the area and stumble upon their worst fears, the Covenant. The planet Reach is the UNSC's military command planet, and it's one of the closest to Earth, whose location must not fall in the Covenant hands. The team traverses the planet in a variety of first-person shooting missions, as well as some that bring you out in outer space. One by one, the crew members are killed, leaving just you, Noble 6, to fend off the Covenant as Master Chief and Cortana set off on the Pillar of Autumn. The game's story is masterfully told, and is emotionally compelling throughout. The story does not follow one character specifically like Halo's 1 through 3, but rather follows the group dynamic of Noble Team. We slowly learn more about the background of the characters and their relationships with each other. Each of the team members' deaths are bittersweet in that most cases they are willingly sacrificing their lives for the good of the mission and of the human race. For someone who gets emotionally attached at times to characters in games, this game's conclusion really tugged at my heartstrings like not many have before. The soundtrack was composed by a team of composers headed by Martin O'Donnell. This team wrote the music for all of the Bungie Halo games, including Halo, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, and Halo Reach. O'Donnell, accompanied by college friend and fellow composer Michael Salvatore, composed the music or worked on the sound design for most of Bungie's notable games, including Oni, the Halo series, and the upcoming Project Destiny releasing in the spring. Both composers have had a substantial background in sound design as well as TV and radio commercial composition. The official soundtrack for the game runs approximately 108 minutes and was released on September 28th of 2010. The score was recorded by the Northwest Sinfonia, based in the Seattle area. The group consisted of a 60-piece orchestra and a 16-member choir. Everything was recorded in sections for more control over the mixing and arranging process. According to O'Donnell, he created more than 1,700 music files separately for the game. So how does all that music actually get into the game? Well, the music system is programmed to piece together the score according to the player's location and intensity of the battle, among some other factors. Recording everything separately gives control over that arranging process, enabling different pieces to be playing at different times. That means if you're in a battle scenario, the beat will be pounding, and the score gets way more intense than if you were to be approaching, let's say, a dialogue with a friendly officer or something. Now, the orchestra and chorus aren't the only things you'll hear in the score. Especially prevalent during the actual gameplay missions are a heavy dose of electronic beats that supplement the driving musical material throughout. The game's cutscenes end up being the focal point for the music, since our attention is drawn away from the various tasks the gamer must be processing while actually playing. Our minds are able to relax a little bit and can pay more attention to things like the music during these cutscenes. If I'm about to face a group of zealot elites, there is no way I am thinking about the fact that the rhythm in the score has changed, that's for sure. The cutscenes in the game are generally fully orchestrated, and here is where the main themes and motives reside. The music in Reach is very theme-driven, and only really uses a couple of main themes through the body of the entire game. There are 2 gestures in particular, though, that are borrowed from the previous games in the Halo series, but most of the prominent melodic activity is brand new to the Halo universe. The first theme, well, it's more of a motive. This is what the entire score is based around, and you'll hear it constantly. Right from the start of the game, we hear just 2 chords. Just 2 chords, and that's all we need to produce a very striking musical idea that pervades through the game. Take a listen to hear to what I'll call the tritone shift theme. If you remember back to my last episode, I talked a lot about tritone shifts in Banjo-Kazooie. Well, guess what? It's back! The 2 chords you just heard that drive the whole score are a tritone apart, sharing no notes with each other. This short motive does develop into a more substantial theme, heard here. No matter where you are in the game, the music will always come back to this 2-chord motive. In fact, the melodic material for the entire first half of the game up until the mission New Alexandria is based primarily around this first theme area. Well then, you might be wondering what happens in the New Alexandria mission. Musically, we are given a sweeping emotional theme that, under the right circumstances, just might tug at your heartstrings as well. Here is the first iteration of this theme I'm simply calling the New Alexandria theme. The melody is very smooth and lyrical, and the harmonic motion is consistent with the melody. By this I mean that the melody changes notes just about everywhere the chords change. There are a couple of exceptions when the composer throws in a good number of suspensions to slightly change our expectations of where the melody is going to go. A suspension is when a note is held over from a previous chord, only resolving after the new chord has sounded. Here's a short example of a suspension from that same clip. This creates a great deal of tension and release, which is very, very, very important in music. The more tension is built up in a musical line, the greater effect the release has. We hear this concept of tension and release all over this piece. Another way the composers create tension is by using some non-standard harmony. Instead of basing all of the chords in this piece on thirds like in most music, the chords are mostly based on fourths and seconds. Chordal or segundal harmony as it's known in the musical world. This is quite prevalent in this New Alexandria theme and creates a very lush, dark atmosphere in an emotional way. The end of New Alexandria brings about a third theme I'm going to call the Ashes theme. That's what it's titled in the soundtrack. This one is interesting in that it starts with new material, but then morphs back into things that we have already heard. The low cello piano line usually starts off the theme, and an ever-rising sense is conveyed through the melody here. This particular theme is heard in the latter half of the game, after things have really started to take a turn for the worse on Planet Reach. Finally, we come to my favorite theme. As you can probably surmise from listening to these music clips, each theme seems to convey a darker and darker message through the music. This is ever prevalent in the opening theme to the mission, The Package. The theme draws once again from the main tritone shift, but instead of just stating the chords, a more melodic line weaves its way through the chord changes. This theme is first stated in the strings, but in the epilogue, the theme starts with a gorgeous solo piano. Speaking of the epilogue, the finale to the game brought one of my most emotional reactions to a musical score in a game. This is a spoiler, but when you see your helmet laying there ingrained in the dirt with Catherine Halsey narrating that final scene, the music uses that same idea of changing chords to create a wonderfully heroic conclusion to the game. Take a listen. So those are the wonderful themes to listen to for the next time you play Halo Reach. But I'm not done quite yet. Remember how I mentioned that there were a few previous Halo game references in the music? Just a few. Well, here they are. The first one is built into the Ashes theme I mentioned earlier. If you recall the choral melody from Halo that goes something like this, then you will notice how that makes its way into the Ashes theme here. The second is a direct quote at the first moment that Cortana is really referenced in the game. Players who have played the whole series will recognize this quite quickly. This short motif was used extensively through the series, especially in Halo 3. Do also take note that the original tritone theme that I referenced at the beginning of the video was very prominent in previous games, once again especially in the Halo 3 soundtrack. In this game though, it's just shortened to be that idea, as opposed to more of a harmonic idea that pervades through the game. Halo Reach has one of the most dynamic and influential scores in my gaming career. While the music of the previous games is wonderful as well, O'Donnell and Salvatore created some beautiful new music for a story about a new set of heroes. The old stuff is closely associated with Master Chief, so without the Chief in the game, a new feeling must be created. Well, until next time, I'm Stefan, and you've been watching The Gamer's Companion to Music. Thanks for tuning in.